Hey, how's it going? It's Chris Yee from Life Abundant Consulting, and happy Friday. This is a day that I like to just take a moment to talk to you all about what I've been thinking about lately. And I'm here in Volunteer Park, Seattle, listening to some beautiful music. And today I wanted to talk to you about finding peace and creating growth in conversations that typically go sideways and create negative emotions in people. I've been thinking about this partly because a good friend of mine has been having some troubles with her boyfriend, not just for a day, but for several years, and is trying to work out the best way to have conversations that allow her to have peace and create growth in the relationship. And I've been trying to find my own peace in my own mind, in my own conversations that I have. And I think that these two tools that I want to offer you are going to be really helpful in being able to create peace in the conversations that you have with the people that you want to have a better relationship with, as well as yourself, which is primarily the most important relationship that needs to be fostering. So let's get to it. I've been reading a book called Nonviolent Communication, and the second part of the title is The Language of Life. I like The Language of Life maybe better than the Nonviolent Communication. In any case, it's written by Marshall Rosenberg, and it's a very famous book. Has led to many improvements in conflicts throughout the world and in all throughout the United States as well. But one thing that he talked about, and it's not really necessarily the crux of what he's talking about, but he kind of prefaced his thesis on this idea that we don't actually have a very good skill in observing without judgment. And observing without judgment is a skill that he believes is crucial in being able to have peaceful conversations and to develop even a sense of peace in ourselves as we talk to ourselves. So what's it mean to have observation without judgment? It immediately makes me think a little bit about being mindful or about being in deep meditation, where there are times when you're having thoughts in your mind, and every time you have a thought, that's okay to have a thought. It's just the idea that you're not judging the thought, and that brings calm and peace and relaxation into yourself. Some people call this mindfulness. But how it works in a conversation would be that someone is speaking to you and you are observing them, but you're not judging immediately what their content is. What you are doing, though, is spending time and energy trying to observe and understand what they're saying. And the way you would show that would be by reflecting back what it is that they said, to show to yourself and to that person that you are observing and understanding what they're saying without adding judgment to it. So my quick example of this is my dear friend. She was having a conversation with her boyfriend, and she said, "Hey, I've got this great idea. My idea is that I'm going to take my mom next time we're in New York City, and we're going to go to the stylist who's a friend of the family, and he's going to show us, what would work well for our body type and for what we want to look like. And then he'll take us out shopping, and we'll do this incredible New York City shopping experience, me and my mom, and with a professional stylist." And her boyfriend said, "Well, what does your father think about that?" And from that point on, there was a complete shift in energy, and there was basically silence. The conversation didn't move forward, and the energy went from excitement to a very uneasy, actually recurrent pattern of anger and negativity. And so what would it look like for, let's say, the boyfriend first to observe what my friend had said, rather than jumping to a judgment about what it is that she said? Well, if he were to observe what she said, he might say something like, "Oh, it sounds like you're super excited about spending some time with your mom and exploring what it would be like to get some professional tips on styling and where to go shopping in New York City. That would be the observation of his seeing what she was excited about and what the content of what she was saying. But instead, he went on to make a judgment. And the thing about judgment is that we're usually judging it on a certain number of principles. Now, judgment is great. Judgment and evaluation, that's important things to do, and that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. But it really depends on what the criteria are in which you're judging. And in his case, and in all of our cases, we usually jump to making a quick judgment based on how we see the world, what our principles are, what's right and wrong, who should be punished, who should be rewarded. And that kind of judgment is really not life affirming, and it also pretty much often kills the conversation right in its track. So I don't know exactly what the boyfriend was feeling, but he said, well, what would your father think? And it seems though as though maybe what he's trying to imply by saying that is that perhaps my friend's father would have not approved of this idea because maybe he has a certain view about how money should be spent, and maybe the boyfriend also believed that he shares that same idea. And so instead of doing a quick snap judgment and making a comment that is judging, go to the observation. What is it that the person is saying? What are they feeling? And then trying to reflect that back. Observation without judgment is a skill. It's a skill in conversation that brings peace, and it's also a skill in the conversation that you have with yourself. When you have thoughts, it's okay to observe and to reflect back what you're thinking without having to judge it. Now I want to move on to what would it be like to judge and evaluate in a life-affirming way. And Marshall Rosenberg in Nonviolent Communication talks a little bit about how would be a wonderful life-affirming way to judge. And the question is not, is it what the Bible says, or is it what my perceptions of money say, or is it what my mama or my father say is right or wrong? But in fact, the question that you can hold in your mind as you're trying to judge and analyze something would be, does this serve life? Does this serve life that this idea that this person is offering? Does it serve life? And you can make a judgment based on that question rather than on all the principles and rights and wrongs and society's yeses and rights. We can just do a very simple question and ask, does this serve life? And if it does, then we can offer a judgment that is potentially really life-affirming and moves people forward in what they're trying to do. So in this case, maybe the boyfriend might have said, so my girlfriend wants to spend some time with her mother and look at maybe doing some styling and some shopping in New York City, and ask the question, does this idea serve life? Does it bring more life to her? Does it bring more life to her mom? And maybe the answer he would think is yes. And if it was, then he might have a different response than, well, what does the father think about that? So I just wanted to take a moment here to offer some suggestions on how to bring peace and a response that affirms life. So again, to bring more peace in your life and conversations, try the skill of observation without judgment. And that is found in the action of reflection back to the person of what they said and understanding what they're feeling. And then in making a judgment, which is a good thing to do, instead of asking whether it's right and wrong, who should be punished or rewarded, ask, does this serve life? And I think those two things will really bring peace to your heart and growth to the relationships that you have, including the relationship that you have with yourself. All right. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.